Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Hello, everyone. Tracy here. Welcome back to another episode. I am so thankful to have you joining me for another fantastic conversation. But before we dive right in, a quick word from this week's sponsor.
The season's just about to get underway. What have you been up to?
Not sitting around. Off-season's busy. Got a couple rookies to train up, some new systems to learn. But we'll be ready.
And what canola are you growing this year?
We chose BY7204LL, Brett Young's new Liberty Link canola hybrid. Our neighbor grew 7204 last year, said it's high yielding, it's got good standability, pod shatter tolerance, and strong defense against club root. It's a game changer.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. Today, we have the always amazing Heather Watson joining us. Heather, how are you?
I'm good, Tracy. How are you?
Good. For those of you guys that are regular listeners, you'll know Heather. She is the Executive Director for Farm Management Canada and a regular guest on the show. So today we're going to have our annual chat. And I want to talk to you about what's going on in your world, the different programs you guys put out to serve farmers, kind of what's on your brain as an organization, and then your annual conference is coming up. So we have a lot to talk about, Heather. Are you ready?
Yeah, that's all right. I'm ready. I'm buckled in. Yeah,
Buckle up, girl. We're going to do this. So
for sure.
why don't you tell our audience a little bit about who you are, your background, and what Farm Management Canada does?
Yeah, I don't talk about myself very often. I like to talk about the organization, but yeah, by way of myself, so I am just so proud and honored to lead the team here at Farm Management Canada as executive director. So I've been doing that. This will be my 15th year, which is hard to believe. And yeah, like my background, I've always been really interested in agriculture, surrounded by agriculture. Unfortunately, I can't say I come from a farm, but of course, a farming background, as every family probably does. But yeah, my kind of upbringing and education is more kind of on the communication research and kind of taking a whole bunch of information and focusing it down into what really matters, like the so what and why now. So I feel like it's kind of been cool to apply that lens to what we do in farm business management. So yeah, with this organization, Farm Management Canada, we're a national nonprofit, non-government organization. We were set up in the early 90s. So basically coming off of I always say the farm financial crisis of the 80s, but it was just the financial crisis. But of course, it affected farmers in very, meaningful and challenging ways. So, commodity prices were just bottoming out because interest rates were soaring. And so and by they, I mean industry at large, was kind of seeing a lot of farmers struggling and trying to figure out how can we help farmers become more resilient, kind of take a proactive approach to managing risk, become more competitive, all the while staying healthy and happy. And so that's where our organization came into play. We were under a different name back then. It was very very governmenty sounding, the Canadian Farm Business Management Council. But we rebranded during our 20th anniversary in 2012 to Farm Management Canada, something a little bit, more short and snappy. But our mandate kind of stays the same. So really focusing on how do we empower farmers by helping them focus on the business side of farming and realizing, absolutely farming is a passion. We totally get that. You're not in it for a get rich quick scheme. I don't think any farmer would be able to claim that or would want to. but recognizing that, we are managing big business, people involved, the money involved, the values involved, and the importance of positioning that for success going forward. So we do that through focusing on increasing awareness, adoption, and I would probably add appreciation of farm business management practices, and then doing that through research. So, we know what we're talking about in terms of what's working and what's not, what's driving the adoption of practices, what are some barriers and how do we overcome that? And then looking at educational programming. So hosting learning events, as you kind of mentioned, developing toolkits and resources and things like that to make farm business management tangible and, fit into busy farm life. And how can we alleviate the stress and not add more things to do, more things to the plate? So that's kind of us in a nutshell.
I love it. So I've noticed over the years chatting with you, you tend to have a focus. Well, you have a lot on the go all the time, but kind of like a theme for the year. What's top of mind for you guys right now? What are you seeing?
Yeah.
What is like that keyword or the key focus, if there is one? If not, that's
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it makes me think on the spot, which of course I love, Tracy. I would say our keyword right now, and perhaps theme we're seeing, is preparation.
okay.
So, we look at, there are lots of things going on out there. Lots of things, hitting hitting farmers from left, right, and center. And it's an ever increasingly challenging business environment to operate, right? Like it would be lovely if we could just be like, hey, this is the recipe for success, and let's just keep doing that. Like status quo, let's be comfortable. Unfortunately, that's not the reality that we're in. We've got crazy, changes in the market, changes in the weather, changes in, financing and interest rates and all that stuff. And so with all those changes, it's tempting to say, well, I mean, who could plan for this? Like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I think our focus is on, we know you don't have a crystal ball and you don't need to have a crystal ball, but really thinking about, from a risk management perspective, what are things that could impact your business and what would happen if they did occur, and what steps could you take or what measures could you put in place to kind of, mitigate the negative impacts, but also be in a position to take advantage of opportunities. So I know we don't like to, mention COVID very much anymore, but really that was an opportunity to kind of see, what happens when you plan in advance. Nobody could see it coming, arguably, but there are those businesses that were positioned to pivot. They knew their numbers, they knew what their capacity was, what they were capable of, they knew what their people were capable of. And so they could say, okay, the market's closed over here. Can we go into digital sales? Or can we, meet our consumer in a different place? And so I think that having a mindset of kind of proactive planning and preparation for no matter what is really, what we're seeing as a differentiator between those that are kind of like, oh my gosh, everything's coming at me, versus those are like, yes, but I can see a path forward, or okay, plan A is not working out, let's go to plan B. And I think part of that as well, which we don't talk about very much in agriculture and farming specifically, but also like preparation in terms of the people involved. So that's where we're seeing a lot more interest and a lot more need in terms of helping producers learn how to communicate with especially with their family, or members of the farm team, of course. But I think that kind of goes hand in hand. Like you can have, the best business plan in the world, but if you're not at a place where you are openly communicating with those impacted by, involved in, or with the opportunity to inform that plan and get engaged and get invested and get excited about it, then, that can kind of leave you in a difficult spot where you might feel like, you're the only one excited about the future that you've built. And so, yeah, that kind of it's a whole other conversation. And I know you've had other folks you're talking to about that, but we certainly see those two sides of the coin. So like, the management side, but also like, I guess, the leadership or the communication side being absolutely crucial for the success of farming going forward. It's like a relationship, right? Communication is the key, always, always, always being able to talk about anything under the sun in a way that is, you know, we need to look at how we can come together, how we can leverage our strengths and the elephants in the room, addressing them so that we can really make headway in a way that's, that's clear for everyone. So we can all get excited and be a part of building the future together, no matter what comes our way.
Amen to that. I was just reviewing one of your event speakers, and we'll talk about your event a little bit later. And he was really big on the 5 pillars of business and
Mhm.
strong in all the areas. And then one of his key specialties, Ovi, I think Ovi, Carlson is one of your speakers. He was big on leadership and
Mhm.
communication, and whether
Yeah.
that's with employees or whether that's with your spouse if you farm alone or your children. And that communication seems to really, really be the theme. And I know, Heather, you've chatted about this. You guys do a ton on farm transition, but I'm even finding with our show and interviewing guests, I'm like, the secret sauce, obviously, and it's a no-brainer, is communication, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate that
Yeah.
answer. Okay. So for listeners maybe that have never caught one of our episodes together, and the reason I asked you about a theme is sometimes you guys are very focused on transition or this, and you have big projects going on. I know you've launched some amazing resources for the industry. So let's say there's a farmer in the audience, a young farmer, older farmer, whatever. They want to improve their operation. Where can they go to find the information, and what do you guys have to help farmers?
Yeah, so it's with an appreciation that people learn different ways. Some people are visual. Some people, like myself, I will dive into an 82-page document and, tape the heck out of it and just customize it myself. But realizing, everyone is different with their approach to learning and doing and all that wonderful stuff. So we try to provide a variety. There's kind of like the quick and easy that kind of gives you a sense of, because we not everyone wants to kind of dive straight in and do the big, okay, let's take a look at everything. Sometimes it's like, let's just take a glimpse. Let's just like peel a layer back and see how we're doing. And so our National Farm Business Management Resource Center, which we'll have to come up with a better acronym for. But basically, yeah, at agriresources.ca, you can see all the different learning opportunities. So learning opportunities in terms of there's like, kind of guides or like assessments and toolkits. So one of the things is our kind of farm business assessment piece. And those who remember the provincial ministries at one point were doing kind of like growing your farm profits workshops, or in Manitoba, they were called gaining ground, or at West, they were called taking stock, but it was all the same thing. And it's a really, I would say, like, relatively quick and easy way to look at the different, and this would speak to those 5 pillars of business management. But it's not just, do you have a business plan, yes or no? But it kind of leads you to understand like the degrees of practice. And so it's not just like, do you or don't you? And if you don't, forget about it. But it's like, yeah, like we have an idea of where we want to go, but maybe it's not in writing. And so it's not like it just doesn't count for anything, but it does give you a sense of like, if you're checking all green, then chances are you're, doing things well, and you're kind of doing the best practice. So like 10 out of 10. But it also gives you a sense of like, maybe we're just a 6 out of 10. And then it gives you a chance to say, but maybe that's not a priority for us. So it's kind of, I would say, if I was a producer, kind of starting with like anything, like start with knowing where you are with with a resource like that, it gives you a sense of where that could go. And again, it's not to say like, oh, shame on you, like you don't have an HR plan in place, but it's to see like, okay, why is this important and what do we mean by that and what would that look like? And maybe you say, okay, now is not a good time for that, but maybe next year we're going to dedicate to that side of things, like just eating the elephant like one bite at a time. And so we have resources like that, and then we have resources that are more complex, that you can kind of choose your own adventure, as it were. So we have our AgriShield comprehensive risk assessment and planning platform. And, comprehensive with a capital C, right? Like it looks at the 6 different, areas of risk on a farm, from people to production and everything in between, financial markets, politics and policy, all the wonderful stuff. But you don't have to sit down and go through it all to get a result. You can say, you know what, I just want to look at personal well-being. And I just want to see like, how am I measuring up against kind of best practice? And the beauty of an online tool like that is that, as you answer based on your own situation, you can kind of start to create, okay, what would an action plan look like? And so if we did want to focus on, say, mental health or something like that within our organization, within our farm, we can look at just that piece. Or if it's farm transition, we can look at that piece, but you also understand how that fits into the bigger picture. And oftentimes in farming, it's we do these assessments and the producers are like, oh man, like I'm rocking production, right? Like I know my inventory, I know I know, I'm using the best technology there is. And then they go over to something like transition planning or human resources, or the things that are more maybe people oriented. It's like, oh, it can be a little bit humbling sometimes. But again, it's just, to show, where you could be. And all this is based on, like tried and true and known practices that differentiate business leaders, business managers in terms of successful businesses. It's like you can get really far by having great production, but it won't take you all the way. Yeah. So I feel like there's a bunch of things that we do. And I mean, so there's quick and easy templates. So, a template for having business focused farm meetings, for example, is on that website. We also, I mean, it's not just about us, it's a National Resource Center. We firmly believe and know we don't have everything, we don't do everything, we're not everything to everyone. And so, it does include programs and resources and tools available anywhere, even not even limited to Canada as well. There's a really great farm business planning tool out of the University of Minnesota, for example, called Ag Plan. So we're like, yeah, like why create something ourselves when there's a great tool there? It's free to use. It's, online, interactive, and customizable. So, and then programs like Farmer Coach, like C-Team, like our National Farm Leadership Program, of course, is up there, and events. So, of course, we're always combing around and seeing like, okay, like what events are being offered specifically with a business management angle. So, oh, there's a cool workshop over there. Okay, we'll put that on there. Oh, FCC is doing Young Farmer Summits. Okay, so it's, a place that anyone can go to and be like, okay, if I want to look at, what's available in terms of supporting farm management excellence, where do I go for that? And boop, it's all in one place.
It's fantastic and so needed. We'll put links to that in the show notes, just so you know.
Sure. Perfect.
Speaking of events, why don't we go there? You have your conference coming up in in November. So share more. Tell us all the details.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm super biased. This is my favorite event because it's like a family reunion that never stops growing. So our Ag Excellence Conference it's the only national conference dedicated like just to farm business management. And so we bring in, like thought leaders and farm management enthusiasts. And I have to mention this year, we're really, really excited because we're bringing in the Canadian Agricultural Safety Association, so our sister organization focusing on health and safety and farmer wellness, as co-hosts, as well as, since we're in BC, the BC Agriculture Council, and along with those folks, the BC Young Farmers. And so it's really cool to kind of come together and join forces. So instead of, do I go to that event or that event or that event, we're kind of expanding our roof, as it were, for AgX this year. So we're really excited about that. And as well, we have support from the Provincial Ministry of Agriculture and Food to bring their expertise to the table too. And so I guess I would say the conference is aptly themed together towards tomorrow. So again, realizing we can't live in silos. We all have strengths. We all have areas of focus we can bring to the table and do our best and kind of leverage those together. And to have that one gathering place that producers and any farm management, health and safety enthusiasts can come together to learn together is really exciting for us. And so we welcome anyone and everyone. So first and foremost, the conference kind of started as like farmers come here to learn about the programs and the resources and the best practices from the leading experts and all that cool stuff. But then realizing, there's a heck of a lot of other people out there that are supporting the needs of producers as well. And so we're kind of like, come one, come all. And we've been that way for years, but like farm advisors, agribusinesses, academics, organizations, governments, etc. Like everyone's kind of welcome to come and have that exposure to what's available, what's the latest and greatest. Is there a new way to do these things, or something's cropping up in the industry and we need to understand what it is and how it's going to impact the business environment, or how it's going to impact, on farm management and things like that. So whether it's policy development, whether it's we've got a legal speaker this year as well. We're excited about, talking about activism, and especially being in BC, there is a heightened awareness of public trust and, what are your rights in terms of activists coming on farms, and what have the BC producers had to deal with that maybe producers in other areas haven't. And how can everyone come together, learn from that, and then find solutions together? So, yeah.
Wow. That sounds like a great event. And that makes sense, coming together, right? It's easier.
Yeah.
Farmers bring
Yeah.
everybody in the same building at the same time. So what other types of speakers, focus, what's all going on throughout the day? Can you remember off the top of your head?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot. The one thing I'll say to preface my answer is, because we have these incredible partners coming in, it's allowed us to expand our programming in a way that it's like a choose your own adventure.
Oh,
And so we have like kind of a learning track for like, there's sessions where, everyone can sit together and learn together, but we've also split it up much more so than ever before. So there is kind of a young farmer learning track. There's a health and safety and wellness learning track. There's a farm business management learning track, because realizing not everyone is maybe as enthusiastic and excited about, say, benchmarking or cost of production as we are. So maybe they want to learn about something very specific in terms of how a tax change affects farm transition, for example. But maybe not everyone wants to know about that. So it kind of gives us a chance to expand the agenda and allow people to kind of go where their heart's desire is in terms of learning. So that's pretty cool. I feel like if I start talking about the individual speakers, I'll leave someone out and someone will be upset.
yes, true.
But I can say it's just really neat in terms of the diversity. So yeah, we have our friend Ove coming from Sweden and talking about his experience in doing the things that we do in Sweden. And, are Swedish farmers different from Canadian farmers? I'm guessing the answer is probably not, but it'll be interesting to kind of hear his journey over there and what we can kind of learn from that, especially being, within a very different regulatory environment, for example. Emphasis on the word environment, perhaps. But yeah, so it'll be neat. And then we also have, yeah, like really great speakers on mental health, but not just, we know mental health is a challenge, is an issue, is something we need to look at, but also looking at what programs are available to support producers. And BC is doing some, like, that's the cool thing about kind of bouncing around to different places with this event, is we can kind of really descend on on local agriculture. Local, I mean provincial, but to give everyone a real understanding of what is going on, and especially coming from a different region, even a different region within BC, and understanding what has the Fraser Valley gone through in terms of flooding, in terms of, some of the unique challenges that they face, access to land, for example, or the cost of land, right? Like farmers in the prairies, or even east of the prairies, can kind of choke on the cost per acre. And so it's like, okay, thinking about, so, like, how are you operating successfully in that environment? And what changes have you had to make to your business? And what lessons can I learn from that and take back to my farm to be like, hey, maybe I should start preparing for if situations change around me. Like maybe there's a time where land isn't affordable at all. What does that look like? What kind of mechanisms can I start putting in place to enable my business to pivot, for example? So yeah. And then I guess, yeah, I would also mention we we really like interactivity. And I think this comes from, like, you maybe wouldn't know it to see me interact with you, 'cause it's super comfortable with you, Tracy, but like I'm an introvert at heart. And so, I can't stand like when I go to a conference and you're just sitting there and you're just listening to speaker after speaker after speaker, and you're like, okay. And then at the end they have, we have 3 minutes for questions. And I'm like, I'm not going to be the one to go to the microphone and take up the 3 minutes, right? So I'll just sit there and, just whatever, write my little question on a piece of paper and maybe talk to them on the break, but more likely than not, I won't. So kind of having that, I guess, personal experience, we try to bring a really interactive component. And so we use like digital technology to enable everyone to have the chance to, provide commentary and questions to speakers. And I remember that we tried this for the first time at our conference post-COVID. So that was back in 2022, the first time we hosted. And the first speaker, we said, okay, let's open up for questions in this, digital realm. And we're kind of like, hope this is good. Oh, it was 33 questions. We're just like, boom, 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 boom. Like usually you get one or two, right? If you're lucky. And then you're like, cricket sounds. But it was amazing because they're just like, and the speaker was excited too, because it's like, yes, like people are listening, they're engaged, they have questions. And wasn't, like criticisms. It was very like respectful and constructive and like, well, what about this? And I'm in this situation here, and who can I talk to? And what do you think about this? And can you clarify this point for me? Like it was just magical. And yeah, and so I'm really excited about that side of things. And then along with, kind of the learning program as it is. So, speakers and discussion panels and, concurrent sessions and stuff. Every year we have our National Resource Showcase. So that's where, we invite anyone basically to come and host a table. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like speed dating. but you've got, like you're moving from table to table and learning about the programs and resources and services available. So whether it's, a learning program like C-Team, or whether it's a new resource like the BC Tips Report, which is a new benchmarking report they're doing for their producers, yeah, maybe there's a conference that folks didn't know about. So anyway, so it's kind of a really neat way to kind of speed learn. And then speaking of learning, we're excited too, because we have a nice contingent of students coming. So they could be future farmers, they could be future advisors, who's to say. But we have a nice interactive session with them. We started doing this a few years ago as well, where we talk about, okay, from the classroom to the real world, like what are you hesitant about? What are you maybe assuming, or what are your fears, or what are your expectations? And then trying to lay a path forward to say, like, hey, like this is, we've even practiced networking, for example. So trying to give people like tangible skills that they can, that they have even before they leave the conference, right? It's like, I can do things differently now, even like here, I can go talk to that person because I know how to start a conversation, or, things like that. So we try and really focus on, what can we do here and now, rather than like, okay, take all this information and then you go back to your farm and you remember what we told you. It's like, no, let's start today. Let's start working on it today. Yeah.
Okay. So Heather, all of that sounds amazing. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience about the conference agenda, different things going on?
Yeah, so I talked a lot about kind of, the learning program, and, speakers and a variety of topics. And the one thing I haven't mentioned yet, which we're really excited about, is so the first day of the conference, we always have a farm tour. So we load on the bus and we visit a variety of farms in the local area, a variety of different production sectors, and, meeting these producers to understand, what is it like, and what challenges are you facing, but also what successes have you seen, and to be inspired by that, and to get a sense of local agriculture. And so we will have, on the first day of the conference, we have this awesome farm tour happening, but at the same time, and this is the value of awesome partnerships, the BC Young Farmers will be hosting that morning Farm Fest, which is kind of their annual get together for young farmers. So if you're a young farmer, if you're interested, come to Farm Fest, and all the attendees of Farm Fest will join us for lunch, and then we'll continue the rest of the tour with them for the rest of the day, and then gather together in the evening for the welcome reception and a little BC marketplace. So it should be a lot of fun. Again, like variety of learning, variety of different ways of kind of, feeling, touching, and understanding BC agriculture.
Nice. Well, and networking too. There's
Yeah.
something to be said about sitting and taking it in and meeting your neighbor. But when you're touring farms and doing these cool things and meeting other students or other professionals, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We're really excited. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for sharing that. I love it. That's lots of good stuff. It's going to be a fantastic event. So, if you have anything else that you want to add, I know you can't list every speaker. Where can people find the event information, registration, and maybe just share those dates and locations with the audience?
Yeah, of course. So everything you need to find is at agexcellenceconference.ca. Our social media channels are also chock full of all this information, and information on speakers and sessions and things like that. And so we have LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and Instagram. Not on TikTok yet, but that's probably to do with my introvertness. A little shy for that platform. But yeah, all the conference information is there. And again, the conference is taking place November 19th to 21st at the Clarion Hotel, specifically in Abbotsford, BC. And I always tell people, for those who haven't flown into Abbotsford, like, to me, the first time, I thought it was just breathtaking. I honestly felt like I was in a scene from Jurassic Park, because you have these mountains with just like these like lush forests of evergreen, and you just kind of descend into the valley and you see the fields of berries, and it's absolutely beautiful. So it's like Jurassic Park without the dinosaurs. But it's really cool. Yeah, it's really, really neat. So I hope everyone can join us, and yeah, certainly, yeah, reach out, and of course, we wouldn't be able to do this without generous sponsors. And yeah, if you check out our sponsor listing, you might want to contact them and see if they might throw a ticket your way. Because yeah, we like to support our producers in any way that we can. Oh, and speaking of which, also check with your provincial Ministry of Agriculture, because there's some funding available through that too. And on the conference webpage, agexcellenceconference.ca, we do have a list of funding available in each of the regions if producers are interested in going that route.
Excellent. I'll put all those links in the show episode notes. Heather, by the way, before we end, you would be great on TikTok because you are lovely on camera. So don't be shy. You're amazing. Nobody would ever guess that. So that aside, thank you for joining us. I love our chats, and I love bringing you guys on the show because our audience and our work is so aligned. So it's always
Yeah.
great to share what you guys are up to. So thank you, Heather, for the work you do, for the events, for everything. You guys are amazing.
Well, thanks so much, Tracy. The feeling is absolutely mutual. The fact that you concentrate on, the business matters of farming is music to our ears, and makes my heart sing. So really grateful for all the work you do and the opportunity to chat today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, Heather. You guys in the audience, if you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, like it, share it, and get it out there. And if you can, attend the event. It will be amazing. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.